Welcome to the Next Step Recovery podcast. We call this More Than Recovery because addiction is so much more than just getting clean from our addictions, our strongholds. It's really finding our purpose in life, and that's what we're here for each and every day. I like to say that we have three purposes here at the Next Step Recovery podcast. The first purpose is to encourage people, to encourage those who are struggling in their addiction or just in life. It doesn't have to be an addiction. It could be anything. So we want to encourage you. Number two, we want to educate you. We want to help you help other people. We want to help you help others. And then finally, we want to expand our reach. We want to expand our impact. We want to expand our partners. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to a great show. Derick, welcome back. And we not much of an introduction here because we're just piggybacking off of what we just got done talking about in the last episode of humility. And I wanted to continue the conversation. And Derick, we both have our notes here, right? We're both prepared for this. And so you may have some things there, and so we can pop back and forth. But I have some things down here that I said, what are some of the things that we can do to purposely build a life of humility, right? And one of the things I have here is you have to maintain an attitude of learning.
Yes.
I don't know everything.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The arrogant person knows it all.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and I love that you put that down. I had a list here, and mine is humility learns and pride stagnates.
okay.
Right. Just, if I'm full of myself, what else do I have to learn? Right. And then I just expect everybody to coalesce to me, or everybody just, work around me because I am the center of my world.
I know it all.
I knew it all. Right. And if I don't know it, I don't need to know it. Someone else will know it. I just rely on them. Right. And then we become this weird mixture of this really arrogant person who wants to be independent, but yet we're completely dependent on other people because we fail to learn. And it just creates tension. I mean, pride is stressful. Right. I just got done going with the guys at the men's home through the book, Stress Less, Trust More.
Right.
And we talk about pride, and pride is stressful.
It is, because you carry all the burden. It's all about you. You have all the answers, and I've gotten to the point I don't like having all the answers. And,
or if I don't have the answer, right, then, and I've done this before, I'll tell myself, right, where if I don't have the answer, well, now it's your problem for asking the question.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want to feel good about myself.
Right.
And whatever makes me feel good about myself, you have to do the opposite.
Yeah. Even in counseling, and I do a lot of counseling, it's freeing when you're in counseling and the counselee asks a question or they have a struggle, and for me to say, I really don't have an answer for that, but here's somebody who might. Because pride says, I have all the answers for you. I'm the best counselor there is. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day about a man who was coming to me for counseling. And I told my friend, I said, I don't feel like I'm qualified to counsel with this guy in this area. And I said, who should I refer him to? And he said, well, but the Todd of a few years ago would have said, well, I'll have all the answers for him, and it was so freeing to go into that counseling session and look at him and say, look, I don't think I'm the right guy for you. Yeah. But I'll be part of your team if you want me to be. I'll be part of your team that holds you accountable, that if you need somebody to just call and pray with, I'll do that. And he was like, man, I appreciate that, but I might not be the guy for you. Yeah. There's probably somebody more qualified, and here are those people if you want to talk to them. Yeah. Because I don't know it all, and that kind of ties into this attitude of learning. I'm open to other people might know more than me, might be better than me, might be better at doing what I do than me. I can learn from them. Yeah. So number two is be vulnerable. Admit that I don't know everything.
Yes.
What does vulnerability mean to you?
Transparency. Just being willing to show the transparent side of you. And I guess to flesh that out, I lived most of my life with this facade, right? I wanted to put on a show. I knew what I wanted you to think about me, and I wanted you to think I was something else, right?
Yeah, right.
I was all that in a bag of chips, and I would do whatever I thought would make you think that of me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't vulnerable, and I knew I had all these problems. I mean, well, I was going to caveat they weren't really big problems. Well, they probably were big problems. I just don't want to admit it, right? But I didn't want you to see any of that. And so I put on this show. I just walked around with this show, and I wasn't willing to talk to anybody.
I have no
issues.
weaknesses.
Right.
I have no weaknesses. I have no problems.
And nobody's attracted to that.
Right.
Like that doesn't attract anybody. It just repels. Right?
But let's go back to what you said earlier. That's the default, though.
That's the default.
That's the default setting. The default setting is look at me. And even like you said earlier, even when I'm saying, oh, I'm just a nobody, that's still a look at me.
Yes.
That's still a look at me comment. So,
yeah.
So be vulnerable, admit we don't know everything. Successful people express their weaknesses.
Yes.
I will tell you where I'm struggling. I will tell you, Derick, one of my favorite to the guys at Next Step, because we both teach down there. Is we're talking about this topic here is I am not mechanically inclined whatsoever. And I used to be very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Insecure about that. Right. And I was like, now I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about cars. And I'll let you know that because it doesn't bother me. Right. It used to bother me, but I'm not a mechanic. Many times if there's something wrong around the house and I try to fix it, my wife will say, please call somebody to fix that. Don't fix it because then we'll have to do it twice.
Yep.
And I can change a light bulb. I can barely put gas in the car. We have several vehicles at Next Step that require diesel, and I have accidentally put gas in those vehicles. So I can't even properly put gas in a car half the time. And when you put gas into a diesel vehicle, it destroys the motor. Okay. And I realized that once I filled up that tank from empty to full, it clicked off that I had just put gas in it. And I realized it at that moment. And we had to tow that vehicle from the gas station and drain the vehicle, so
yeah,
the people usually with the best sense of humors do it through their weaknesses. They express their weaknesses and they can laugh about them.
Yes. Yeah. And that's incredibly important. We talk about humility and vulnerability and transparency is being able to laugh.
Yeah.
Right. About yourself. I think there were years of my life where I was a pretty serious guy. I mean, I think I have a pretty good sense of humor, but I was very serious because it was a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
That like, if you said I did something wrong or criticized me, like I couldn't find it in myself to be able to handle that because I tied my identity. I think this is another thing about pride is, in our humility, we know our identity is in Christ. Our identity is in the way that we're made. That's it, right? Yeah. But pride has to find identity in something else. And I found my identity.
I'm the best.
Right? I found my identity in what I knew. So if I didn't know, right, I'll go with the mechanically inclined thing, right? If I didn't know let me try again. If I was exposed for the stuff I didn't know mechanically, right? Well, now I feel like a failure because I don't know it, right? And I didn't know how to just admit, oh, I don't know that. And now I've grown a lot. And I can say, I don't know, right? The washer, dryer, not working, right? Let's call Adam. Adam's our guy. Adam fixes it and it's fixed. And I don't feel bad about that. I used to feel bad about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of flipping a house. If you're familiar with, you buy a house that needs work, you get it at a good price and then you fix it up and you sell it for a profit. And we're in the process of, we have a house a couple miles down the road here. And the guys who are doing the work often ask me, well, what do you want to do about this? What do you want to do about that? What do you want to do about that? And I'm like, and most of the time, 90% of the time I'm looking at them going, you tell me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
What are my options?
Right. You do, with me. What would you do?
Yeah.
What would you do here? Because I'm not smart enough to know anything about this. Right. Yeah. I just want it done. Yeah. Where the old me would have said, well, I want this and this and, and now I'm 90% of the time I'm just going, well, you tell me. Yeah. You tell me what you would do here.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll do. Yeah. There's no pride and ownership here at all. So maintain an attitude of learning, be vulnerable, and all these kind of tie together. Number 3 is accept feedback. Can you accept feedback humbly?
It depends on the day.
Yeah. Can I here? here's the type of feedback that I have to learn to take and accept. It's feedback that's not given to me in a positive way. It's one thing to receive feedback from somebody who's trying to help me. It's another thing to receive feedback from somebody who's trying to hurt me, though it might be true.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And sometimes, this is what I talked about the men's home a couple of days ago, is there are things that we can control. There are things that we cannot control. I cannot control what people say to me, but what I can control is my response to it.
That's right.
Right. And so sometimes I need to ask myself this question: who do I need to be to take that criticism given to me in a poor way, but who do I need to be to take that and use it the best for me?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm saying those words as if I know what that actually how to do that. I struggle with that a lot.
We all do. Right.
But it's that, okay, here's what's on the table in front of me. What do I want to do with it? I get to choose what I want to do with it. And I can get mad, and I can not tell you the number of times that I have just reacted to even constructive criticism because I felt like a chink in my armor. Yeah. Like somebody found the hole and the arrow went right through to my heart.
Yep. So you're having a conversation and it's not a good conversation, and somebody looks at you and says, Derick, let me tell you something about yourself. You're a lazy, no good, whatever. You get to choose how to respond to that.
So yeah,
you can't choose what I just said.
Right.
But you get to choose how you're going to receive it. Mm-hmm. Is it true?
And I'd like to ask the question. So, okay, let's imagine this is true. Like what area of what might they be seeing
right
that I might not see?
Mm-hmm.
And there's humility to recognize that somebody else might be able to see something that I can't see. And maybe it's delivered in a poor way.
You can't help how they delivered it.
But there's something they're seeing that I might be able to benefit from. And I'd be foolish to walk away and assume you are entirely 100% completely wrong. And I'm just going to ignore what you said completely.
That's right. Yep. And that's a struggle. I am working on that. That's what I am working on personally, is taking feedback that's not given to me in the best of ways and asking myself, is there truth in what they just said?
Yeah. My wife gives me criticism very well, but here's what happens. What seems like on a regular basis is something happens. I do something and she'll very kindly, correct me or say we should have done this way, or, just something. And my initial response is just to, armor up.
Yeah, right.
Right. And she says, she's asked me this several times. Why do you take it so personally immediately?
Yeah.
And after a few minutes, I realized, wow, I really overreacted on that one. Like this was a very small issue. And in my pride, I couldn't see past this opportunity for me to grow. And it amazes me how quickly.
Can I accept feedback?
Right, how quickly I just respond and the opportunity to grow through that.
Yeah. Even if it's in a way, like you said, your wife does it kindly.
Right.
Right. And you struggle with that.
I do.
So I mean,
you can only imagine.
We all do. Yeah. So now, and now you give it to me in a not so kind way. And now it's tough to sit back and go, so all of a sudden my pride wells up in me.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
The next thing here is, a humble person accepts the facts for what they are. In our pride, a lot of times, it's very emotional, and we tend to say, well, I know it all. This is the decision, when the facts may be bearing something else out. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
A lot of times, a prideful person will ignore data that's telling them something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense to you, they'll ignore the facts that are on the table. Here are the facts. The facts are the people here are quitting left and right. And you're not seeing, because of your pride, you're not seeing that they're quitting because of you.
Right.
Yeah. They're ignoring the data.
And everything rises and falls on leadership. Right. And as leaders, we need to be able to see the facts are facts. And if I ignore them, I can ignore them. It doesn't make them go away.
Right.
And I think this goes back to pride is always built on something false. Right. And if your narrative doesn't support this false thing that my pride is built on, I want to ignore it because truth will always pierce right through some false narrative or some lie.
That's the world we live in today. Mm-hmm. We live in a world today that simply says facts don't matter. What matters are feelings and emotions, and that's all pride. It's all pride.
Yeah.
We live in a world that says black is white and white is black, up is down and down is up, despite what the facts say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is pure prideful arrogance at its core.
Yeah.
And we call it something else, but yeah.
and there's a humility. Here's where the humility is a balance again, where facts are facts. Emotions are important, right? Feelings are important, but it takes a humility to be able to balance those two and blend those two together and be able to see really what's going on.
Yeah.
Because if I go just facts, I'm going to miss out on these are people I'm dealing with.
Right.
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 I have to approach them on some kind of relational basis. If I go straight to the emotional basis and only ignore the facts, well, then both are completely false pretenses.
That's right.
Humility finds a balance. How about this one? Humility finds a balance. Pride finds the edges.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. It lives on the edges there. And
some extreme.
Yeah. Emotions are, we are emotional creatures, right? The data where, it demonstrates over and over and over in so many studies that 85% of our decision making is driven by emotions, not facts.
Yes.
We're very emotional creatures. We're emotional, and God made us that way. Yep. If life would be so boring,
we'd be robots.
Yeah, if we were all just walking around going, just looking straight ahead and no emotions and no personalities, life would be there would be no excitement to life whatsoever. So God gave us these emotions, and I often say emotions a lot of times are just indicators that something's either right or wrong. It's like it's like the light that comes on in your car, the check engine light or the oil light or the whatever light comes. It's just those emotions are an indicator that something is right or something is wrong in my life. And a lot of times we can't strike that balance between what they really are and what they're not. So, a humble person shows compassion for other people. They show compassion.
Yeah. And it occurs to me that this is almost like the opposite of the previous one where pride ignores facts.
Yeah.
Right. But pride also sometimes ignores emotions. Right. And this is the balance. And
right, where you're going to the edges again.
It's going to the edges. Yeah. Right. I think about going back to Dr. Guthrie in Calc 4, right? He absolutely understood that he had compassion for me. That's what compelled him to speak so directly to me. And that was in our previous episode when my professor called me out.
His compassion drove him to give you the facts.
Yes. And there's that balance again, right?
Yeah.
And Dr. Guthrie, it never occurred to me that he was a humble guy, but looking back, he was an extremely humble, but I'll use the confident guy.
Right.
Yes.
A compassionate person does tell you things that might hurt you. Right. I'll never forget one time I was a first lieutenant in the Air Force, had what we used to call no notice check rides. It's where you got an in-flight evaluation, but it was, you had 2 a year. You usually had a scheduled one you knew was coming. You knew the date, I'm going to get my in-flight evaluation on April 12th, this day, on this flight. And then you had no notice where they just showed up. Surprise, we're here. You're going to get an in-flight evaluation today. Yeah. And I had a no notice in-flight evaluation that day. And the guy who was an evaluator was also a friend of mine. And he busted me on that check ride because he cared.
Yes.
He didn't overlook my flaws. He didn't overlook what I was doing wrong. He was actually having compassion on me to say, Todd, you need to, and he was kind about it. He was mean. He didn't say, you're an idiot. He said, Todd, he goes, you messed this up. Yeah. And you know why I messed it up? Because of my arrogance. Because I was having such a great flight. Everything was going right. I was doing everything right. I was doing everything perfect. And I got cocky and I said, we're going to go in here and land this airplane and we're going to fly this approach, which was one of the harder approaches to fly. And we didn't have the weather minimums to fly that approach. And I didn't know it because it was a low cloud deck in there that day. And we didn't have the weather minimums to fly that approach. But I was going to show him, I was going to finish this flight off and I'm going to show him just how good I am.
Yeah. And this goes to another distinction where pride cares about the destination. Like, I have an agenda. Pride shows up with an agenda. Like, and this is all that I want for this person. This is what I want for this relationship. This is what I want.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's wrong to have an outcome that you want, but humility steps up in the process and in the journey and cares about what's going on in the moment.
That's good. Yeah. One more and we'll end it. It's all about other people. Our focus is on others first.
Yes.
I'm not saying our focus isn't on us, because Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
There is some I have to take care of, I work out because I want to take care of me. I try we were talking about hydration with Mark earlier, and, I need to hydrate better because I need to take care of me. Right. It's like the old airplane, and when you're in the airplane and you're getting ready to take off, and the flight attendant says, if the oxygen mask drops, put yours on first.
Yep.
Before you help somebody else. Yes. Because by the time you help somebody else, you'll be passed out.
Yeah.
So you got to take care of yourself first before you take care of the child. But taking care of me is still about, I'm taking care of me to take care of other people.
Yeah. And I think Christ was obviously the perfect model of this, but practically, like there's the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And what he hammers home in that book is the number of times that Christ went off by himself to rest, to pray, to get away from the crowd. Why? So that he could get back to the crowd.
Yeah.
And I think as a society, I'm going to make a generalized statement. We've missed that.
Yeah.
That we have to take care of ourselves, but not for ourselves, right? But it's for others. Yeah. And Paul in Philippians says, let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. Right. What was the mindset? That of a servant. Right? That of humility.
Other people.
And if Christ was others focused, but he took care of himself.
Yeah.
And, here's the balance again, right? Humility is this seeking to balance where pride goes to the edges.
Yeah. It's either all about me, which is prideful.
Yes.
Or it's all about other people and woe is me, I'm nobody, which is arrogance. It's still the same. Yes. It's still the same thing. And, again, that's why I wanted to talk about humility, Derick. It is a tough topic. It's, what is humility? It's not what we always think it is. Yeah. The Bible really kind of shows us what it is. And we see it all through the Bible. We see it through Jesus, obviously. Mm-hmm. And Jesus did not always display weakness. He never displayed weakness. Yeah. He never did. He was others focused, but he was also God focused, God the Father focused first. Mm-hmm. And that whole idea of humility, it is a powerful, powerful tool that when practiced correctly, and you even hate to use the word practice because that it seems like it takes it away, like it's a tool. I don't know if it's so much of a tool or it's just a mindset.
Yeah. And we need to practice our mindsets, right? Mind your mindset.
Yeah. Think about what you think about.
Yes,
that's what I would say. You need to think about what you think about.
Yeah.
Think about what you think about. Humble people build teams. Mm-hmm. Arrogant people build themselves.
Yes.
Humble people build teams. Arrogant people build themselves. Yeah. One lasts and the other doesn't. So last thoughts on humility there, Derick. I'll let you have the.
It takes courage to be humble. It takes courage to be humble because it's not my default setting. I have to go seek for strength from Christ to be humble. And that takes courage to empty me of me because I like me a lot. Yeah.
Default settings, man, those, I always come back to default settings, pride, anger, me first. If our default settings were the opposite, if my default setting was humility,
we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I wouldn't need God, right? If my default setting was compassion, I wouldn't need God to tell me that. So whatever is in the Bible where God is telling me to do something, it's usually because my default setting is the opposite.
Yeah. Can I read one quote?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
This is a quote from Jim Berg. And it says this: a man's potential for God lies not in his ability, nor in his opportunity, but in his humility before God. Why? God is not impressed with our abilities because they came from him. God is not impressed with our opportunities. They're gifts from him as well. God is impressed only with our humility because it testifies of our sense of dependency.
That's good.
On him.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, isn't that good?
Well, I hope that I have received something out of this conversation today from Derick, and I hope you have too, on humility. And boy, it's a powerful tool, but it's a very difficult, and the Bible is very specific, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God.
It's a choice.
Yeah. And if we don't, the Bible says he resists us.
Yeah.
He resists the proud. Whew.
You want God to be against you?
Right. Man, if you want him to be for you, humility. If you want him to be against you, make it all about yourself. Yeah. And wow. Well, thank you again. If you got any questions for Derick, call him at 47. No, I'm just kidding.
478.
And you can go to our website and you can contact us that way at www.nextstepmin.org. And we will get those questions to Derick as well. Please, again, subscribe, like, share, do all those things. Make sure Derick's pretty face gets out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I've enjoyed. We'll have to do it again, Derick, definitely.
Absolutely.
So you guys have a wonderful day.